Welcome to Bruins Got the Beat, your first source of all music news at Lake Braddock. I'm your host, Claire Copes. Let's get listening. There are so many talented musicians here at Lake Braddock Secondary School. From our various music programs, our choir students, and guitar class kids alike, students here at LB are in touch with their musical sides. On today's episode, we will be discussing an up-and-coming musician at Lake Braddock, Caleb McCree. A junior at LB, Caleb is a drummer and a Lake Braddock marching band member. He composed his own original work for the December band concert called The Three Ill-Fitted Mechanics and a Wonky Flying Machine. We invited Caleb to join us today so we can get his perspective on the piece, what it means to him, and the process of composing and his upcoming projects. Every musician starts somewhere. What has been your music journey up till now?
So I have been playing piano from a very young age. I think it was third or so grade when I first got into lessons. I went into cello into fourth grade. Didn't like it. French horn in fifth grade, didn't like it. So I switched to percussion in sixth grade, and that's what I've stuck with up until now. As far as composition goes, I started making my own piano compositions around, I think it was freshman year, which slowly expanded into sort of larger orchestration eventually. I did end up having a whole music production phase in middle school that I was low-key kind of embarrassing, but you know what, it's in the past, but I think it was a pretty good step in helping me to move towards me developing my own ideas into sort of a more orchestral format.
What made percussion stand out to you?
Honestly, it's too far back for me to really remember. I don't know, hitting stuff's cool.
No, that's valid. That's valid. Okay. Who are some of your influences in music? Genres, specific people who have changed your perspective? Anything like that?
I'm not sure if I have any specific individuals, but I know a lot of the genres I listen to. I know I listen to a lot of orchestral music, but also stuff like J-pop and K-pop. That kind of area is very layered in its instrumentation, or just the instrumentals have a lot of layers to them. So when I'm sitting down and listening to just the music and not focusing on anything else, it's really easy for me to see and kind of pick apart a lot of these different aspects of the music. And so I think that's kind of something I strive to do in my own compositions, to sort of add different pieces to where in a second or third listen to, there's still something new to sort of pick out.
That's really interesting. I feel that way about music. I like listening to things multiple times, and then you can pick out on this listen, pick out the new part that you haven't seen before. So specifically for The Three Ill-Fitted Mechanics and the Wonky Flying Machine, which is a great title, by the way, what was the musical process behind creating that piece?
So last year, I think it's 2023, District Symphonic Band, we played a piece by, it was called Steampunk Suite, and so it was basically 4 movements sort of representing the different famous figures in I think it was the 18th century sort of Victorian era. So specifically their first and fourth movements were sort of goofy and silly, sort of using a lot of interesting sound effects like bike horns and stuff like that, and weird time signature changes to sort of throw off the feel. And so I think that's kind of the idea I was going for when I started writing this piece. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas too. I think some of the motifs just kind of came to me in the shower or whatever.
That's real.
Sort of showed up in my head, but I sort of developed it in a way that ended up being in a similar style to what the Steampunk Suite was. So once I reached that point, I think it was pretty easy for me to sort of go with the flow and develop it into something bigger.
So you wrote the piece, and then did you pitch it to Mr. Lully and Mr. Gilbert, or did they approach you, or how did you get it put on the set list for the concert?
I finished the piece sort of over the summer of last year. and I sent them an email at the beginning of the school year saying, "Hey, this is my piece. Please look at it," alongside a couple other like arrangements and stuff. So, but as the fall season went further and we started leaving the marching band and moving into concert band, Mr. Lilly just kind of approached me and asked if he wanted to play my piece with the concert, and I said yes. That's an awesome opportunity.
What was it like in the process of rehearsing the piece and just like getting it bringing it to life? Like, what was that process like for y'all?
I think it was really interesting sort of seeing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, how someone else interprets what I've written and how those two things kind of differ. I do think, however, that it was a pretty big learning experience for me because I realized that a lot of the things I asked the musicians to do may not have been feasible. So, for example, I put it in the key of E major, which is apparently, which I now know is a horrendous key for horn instruments, because transposing in the key of B flat gets you and playing into B major, and if you're an unlucky E flat instrument, you're playing in the key of G sharp major,
Ooh, yeah.
7 sharp, which is awful. So,
I did hear about that. I did hear about the 7 sharps.
Yeah. So yeah, I also definitely asked the tubas to play some almost impossibly low notes that probably would have been better an octave up and not changed much. But I think that it's a lot of stuff that I now know and can sort of, go back and revisit my old work and sort of change them to be more playable, or, use and putting into some of my new stuff.
What do you want audiences to take away from listening to your music? Just in general, as a whole, specifically this piece, anything?
Oh, it's a big question. With this piece specifically, I feel like I know there's a lot of stigma around like band and orchestra concerts being like, sit down, stay quiet, don't make any noise, just kind of listen and sit there, where I feel like that doesn't necessarily always have to be the case. I know there's a lot of music out there that's already like that, but I feel like adding more couldn't hurt. But as a whole, I sort of just want to take my ideas and share them into the world. I think that's sort of with arrangements and stuff, taking a piece that's already there and changing it into a different format, sort of the way I envision it to be, I think is a really cool thing I get to do. And yeah, sort of with compositions and stuff. Sort of with compositions, taking the ideas I have in my head and making them into something tangible, I think is really important.
Do you have any upcoming projects that we can look forward to?
I am working. Actually, I just finished an arrangement of a piece. It's sort of a jazz metal fusion piece that I rearranged for a slightly larger instrumentation. So I'm hopefully going to be performing that at the Small Ensembles concert this May.
Ooh, okay. What is jazz metal fusion? That's very interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of takes like the whole horn section of jazz. So you have like saxophones, trumpets, trombones, maybe throw a tuba in there or something, I don't know. And then for the rhythm section, you have more sort of metal area. So you have like overdrive guitar, little heavy bass, drum set, and then I'm adding some cool percussion stuff that I got to play.
That's awesome. Okay. What do you want your future in music to be? Do you have anything like specific or any big dreams, visions for yourself?
Of course, the big dream is to go play in an orchestra, but I realize that's not feasible for most people. So I'm okay with doing anything as long as it's in the world of music. I could be a Broadway pit musician or in an orchestra, or like a traveling jazz musician, or if I end up being like one of the backup drummers for Rihanna or something, I don't know. But as long as I'm, playing music and having fun, I think I'm okay with wherever I end up.
Do you have any advice for any musicians? Or is there anything in your music journey that you wish you would have known?
Honestly, I would just say don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, I know if I had asked people to like look at my work and see what's okay to play, what's not, what might be okay, but it's probably impossible. But I think if I just asked people for feedback on my work and would be able to use that to change it to make it something more enjoyable for everyone to play, to listen to, just don't be afraid to ask people around you for assistance.
Well, thank you for coming on here and talking to me about this. I was at the band concert, and sitting in the audience, when they told us that it was an original piece by a student, I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. And then listening to the piece, I was like, that's insane that someone could think that music into reality and could create something like that. And it is true that band concerts, sometimes can be associated with sitting there and listening to Symphonic play 7 songs for 6 hours.
10 last year.
10 last year, 10 songs. But it just brought something new, and I feel something very exciting to the concert, and it was really good to listen to.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. I'm glad to know people enjoyed it. It's very wonderful.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was Caleb McCree, getting an insight into this Bruins musical process and experiences as a musician at Lake Braddock was truly amazing. Make sure to check him out on all his socials and support his works. Which Bruin will have the beat next time? Check in to see what music we explore next. As always, this has been your host, Claire Copes. Rock on, Lake Braddock!